Welcome. Close the door behind you. This room is quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own breath. You're safe here, at least for now. Tonight's theme lives close to the bone. Toxic mothers, the love that bruises, the comfort that cages, the voice that teaches you to doubt your own. You'll hear small, ordinary moments turning wrong, a birthday that never ends, a bedtime rule that lasts into adulthood, a gift that asks for something back. These stories are tame on the surface. Kitchens, hallways, old photos, but the fear lives in what is allowed and what is never forgiven. This collection is different. It isn't about monsters in the dark. It's about the person who taught you what home means. If you sleep after this, you may still wake up listening for a voice that isn't in the room. Most people listen all the way through and forget to subscribe. If you're the rare one who remembers, it helps more than you think. Tell me, what time is it where you are? Where are you watching from? Leave it in the comments so we know who's awake with us. You might want to leave a light on. Let's begin. The second I found the small white box on my kitchen table, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't there when I left for work. The air felt heavier, the kind of stillness that presses on your chest. The box was wrapped in the same gold paper my mom used for every birthday. Neat corners, silver ribbon, the faint smell of her lavender perfume. She'd been gone for 3 years. I didn't touch it at first. I just stood there, staring at it, half expecting to hear her voice from behind me, that calm, careful tone she used when she wanted me to obey without question. I remember saying out loud, "This isn't funny," but no one was home. The apartment felt colder that evening, the kind of chill that doesn't come from the air conditioner, but from something in the walls. I made tea just to hear some noise, but the kettle hissed louder than usual, and I couldn't stop glancing at that box sitting in the center of my table. It had a small card tucked under the ribbon, my name, in her handwriting. Mom's single quotes as handwriting. The looped J, the slanted E. She always wrote my name like she was apologizing. I hadn't seen her handwriting since the day she died. I burned every note she ever left me. I told myself someone was playing a cruel joke. Maybe my cousin found an old gift she'd forgotten to give. Maybe someone wanted to mess with me, but I lived alone. Nobody had a spare key. I finally sat down and stared at it. The smell was stronger now, that cheap lavender lotion. She'd rub into her wrists until her skin shone. I remember her voice when I was a kid, greater than "Don't open gifts before your birthday. Jesse, it's bad luck." My birthday wasn't for another month. By nightfall, I'd convinced myself to throw it away. I took the box to the trash chute at the end of the hallway. The sound of my slippers on the old linoleum echoed in that empty corridor, too loud, too sharp. When I opened the chute, a wave of warm air brushed my face, like something breathing up from below. I tossed the box in and heard it tumble down, clattering against metal before it vanished into the dark. That should have been it. But when I came back to my apartment, the box was on my kitchen table again. No wrapping this time. Just the plain white box and the ribbon. It was tied around my wrist. I don't remember sitting down. My heart was in my throat. I just stared at that white box, and I could hear my mother's voice as clearly as if she were sitting across from me. "Open it, sweetheart. Don't be ungrateful." My hands were shaking. The box was light, like it was empty, but when I lifted the lid, a faint smell of burnt plastic hit me. Inside was a folded piece of paper. It was a receipt from a jewelry store. The date, July 19th, 2005. The year she gave me a necklace for my 10th birthday. The one I never wore. On the back of the receipt, in her handwriting, "Greater than you should have worn it. It was meant for you." That necklace was still in my dresser drawer, tangled in old shoelaces and dust. A small silver heart, tarnished black from age. She'd said it would keep me close to her. When I was a kid, I thought she meant love. Now, I wasn't so sure. I took it out, holding it up to the light. The silver felt cold, colder than metal should be. The clasp was bent, and for some reason, the chain had grown longer, like someone had replaced it. I should have left it alone, but there was something in my head, whispering that maybe she just wanted to be forgiven. That maybe if I wore it, she'd stop haunting me, stop punishing me for all the years. I tried to forget her, so I put it on. The moment the clasp clicked shut behind my neck, the apartment lights flickered. It wasn't just the lights. The air shifted. I could smell her cigarette smoke and lilac perfume, faint but unmistakable. My reflection in the microwave looked wrong. My face seemed tighter, pale. Then my phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. Asterisk, do you like it now? Asterisk, I dropped the phone. My hands were trembling too hard to pick it back up. When I looked at my wrist, I saw a faint mark where the ribbon had been red and raw, like a burn. I ran to the bathroom, half thinking maybe I was dreaming, maybe I was losing it. The light in there flickered too. My reflection didn't move when I did. She smiled. I didn't. And in her hand, I saw the same box I'd thrown away. I slammed the door, stumbled back to the kitchen, and ripped the necklace off. The chain broke with a sharp snap, and I threw it across the room. It hit the floor with a sound like glass, shattering too loud for something that small. When I looked again, it wasn't there. Neither was the box, but the air felt full, like someone was still standing right behind me. I didn't sleep that night. I left every light on, sat with my back to the wall, watching the shadows move under the door. Every few minutes, I heard soft tapping, the kind that comes from fingernails, not knuckles, and somewhere deep in the quiet, her voice whispered again, "Greater than you never returned it." The next morning, I tried to call my aunt, Mom's sister, to ask if she'd been in town, if maybe she'd left something. But before I could say anything, she said, "Jesse, I dreamed about your mother last night." I froze. She was holding a white box. She continued, her voice cracking. She said, "You finally accepted her gift." The line went dead. When I looked down, there was a message on my phone, a photo, me asleep on my couch. The necklace was around my neck again. For the next few days, everything around me began to change in small ways. The kitchen clock always stopped at 3:17 a.m. The fridge door creaked open when I wasn't near it once. I caught a glimpse of her shadow on the floor, standing between me and the window. Even though the curtains were shut, every night, I'd find something new on the table, a hairbrush, a lipstick, a note that said asterisk, "Don't forget to smile." Asterisk, little things she used to say. The apartment started to smell like her again. That cloying lavender, that nicotine sting. I scrubbed every surface, burned candles, sprayed perfume. Nothing worked. It was like she was painting herself back into my life, one object at a time. I tried to throw the necklace out again, this time taking it far, 3 blocks away to a dumpster behind a diner. I watched it fall between the trash bags, heard it clink against the metal. When I came home, it was already waiting on my pillow. That night, I dreamed I was 10 again, sitting at the kitchen table, the white box in front of me. Mom stood across from me, smiling that same tight smile, her eyes wet, but never blinking. "Do you know why I gave it to you?" she asked. I shook my head. "So I'd always know where you were." Then she leaned across the table and whispered, "And now you'll always know where I am." I woke up with the necklace around my neck. Something changed after that. When I looked in mirrors, my reflection started smiling before I did. When I spoke, there was sometimes an echo that didn't match my words. Once, I heard humming from the bathroom, her old lullaby, while I was sitting in the living room. I didn't go in. The next morning, the mirror in there was fogged from the inside, though I hadn't showered in days. Across it, in long finger strokes, were the words, "Greater than you never said thank you." I stopped sleeping in that apartment. I started staying at a friend's place, pretending everything was fine. I left all the lights on at home, the TV running. The window cracked, anything to make it feel less like she was waiting. But even at my friend's house, the smell followed me. The lavender, the smoke, the faint sound of her humming when the room went quiet. It's been 3 months now. I've moved twice. I don't keep mirrors anymore. Every so often, a small white box shows up where I sleep. Hotel rooms, couches, cars, always the same size, always wrapped in that gold paper. I don't open them anymore, but the last one was different. It wasn't sealed. The lid was half open, and inside was a single Polaroid.me, wearing the necklace. Behind me, in the photo, a woman's hand rested on my shoulder. I was alone when that picture was taken. People tell me grief makes you see things, that maybe my guilt is turning into hallucinations. But guilt doesn't tie ribbons around your wrist while you sleep. Guilt doesn't leave ashes on your pillow shaped like fingerprints. I think she's still here, not as a ghost, not as something supernatural, but as the part of her that never stopped controlling me. Her love was possession long before she died. Now it's just quieter. Sometimes I wake up with her perfume filling the room, and the chain cold against my throat. When I take it off, the mark it leaves looks almost like her initials. I used to think she wanted forgiveness. Now, I think she just wanted me to wear her forever. I still have the first box, the one that started all this. I can't get rid of it. Every time I try, it shows back up on my bed, in my car. Even once inside the fridge. I stopped trying. It's sitting beside me now, on the nightstand. The ribbon is untied, and the lid is half open, like it's breathing. Inside, there's something new. A small folded note. I haven't opened it yet, but I can see the first 3 words written in her looping hand. Greater than it's your turn. The knocking started again last night. Soft, steady, polite. 3 taps, then silence. It always happens around 2:30 a.m., just when I start to drift off. I live alone. The sound comes from behind my mom's old bedroom door. She told me never to open it. Even after she died, I couldn't bring myself to touch the lock. It's been sealed for years. The rest of the house looks lived in, clean, warm, light. My coffee mug on the counter. My laundry folded in the chair, but that room has always felt like a shadow that refuses to move. Last night, I sat on the floor in the hallway, my back against the opposite wall, staring at the door. The paint is peeling around the knob, but the lock is still solid. Every few minutes, the wood creaks like something's breathing on the other side. It started about a month after the funeral. The house had been too quiet for too long. I'd gone through her things, boxed up her clothes, even repainted the living room to make it feel new again. But her bedroom, I left it locked, like she told me. She'd always said, asterisk, never open that door. Promise me. Asterisk, when I was younger, I thought she just didn't want me snooping through her stuff. But she said it differently the last time, in the hospital. Tubes in her arms, voice rasping like she'd swallowed sand. Don't ever go in there, Jesse. Not for anyone. Do you understand me? I said yes. I wish I hadn't, because now I don't know what's worse, obeying her or finding out why. The first time I heard the knocking, I thought it was the pipes. Old houses groan in weird ways, but the sound was too deliberate. 3 knocks, a pause, then another set of 3. When I pressed my ear to the door, the wood felt cold. I could hear faint breathing, rhythmic, shallow, like someone was standing an inch away, waiting for me to answer. I whispered, "Hello." The breathing stopped. That silence, that heavy, wet silence felt worse than the sound. I backed away and slept on the couch that night. The next morning, I found a small pile of dust under the door, the kind you get from old wood, except this dust was gray and fine, like ashes. I tried ignoring it. For weeks, I played music at night, left lights on in the hallway, but every night, around the same time, I'd hear those 3 slow knocks. Sometimes I'd hear faint movement afterward, like fabric dragging across the floor. A few times. The door handle rattled. Once, it clicked. Not enough to open, but enough to twist my stomach inside out. I called my aunt. Just to talk, to ask if Mom had kept anything strange in her room. She went quiet for a long time before saying, "You still live there?" When I told her yes, she sighed. "She didn't tell you what she kept in that room, did she?" I said no. "She made me promise too," she whispered. "If you've been hearing things, Jesse, just leave it alone, please." I hung up before she could finish. Her voice scared me more than the knocking did. A week later, I woke up to my cat Nib pawing at the door. She was growling low, tail puffed up, ears pinned back. "Hey," I whispered, trying to pull her away, but she wouldn't move. Her claws scratched deep into the wood near the bottom. Then she hissed, not at the door, but at me. I'd never seen her do that before. She bolted down the hallway and hid under the couch. When I went to check the door again, I noticed the lock had turned slightly, just enough that the metal didn't line up perfectly anymore. Someone had touched it that night. I set up my phone camera in the hallway. I turned the lights off and let it record while I pretended to sleep. When I checked the footage the next morning, my chest went cold. At exactly 2:31 a.m., the doorknob turned, not once, over and over, like someone trying to remember which way opened it. Then 3 soft knocks. After that, the frame shook slightly, like something heavy brushed past the tripod. The camera tilted. The hallway went darker, even though no lights went out, and then, faintly, you could see the bottom of the door lift. Just a millimeter, like something inside was pressing against it. Then the screen cut to static. I deleted the footage. I told myself I must have been sleepwalking, but deep down, I knew that door wasn't empty. 2 nights later, I heard my mom's voice, not a whisper. Not in my head, her voice thought, coming from the other side of the door. Greater than "Sweetheart, could you help me?" I think I dropped something. My whole body froze. The way she said "sweetheart," that exact tone, soft and scolding at the same time. The kind she used when she wanted me to feel guilty. I said, "You're not her. Please, Jesse, just for a minute. You can lock it again after." The voice cracked on my name. It sounded almost right, just a bit too hollow, like it was echoing from somewhere farther away. I stepped closer without meaning to. My hand brushed the doorknob. It was warm. "I just need you to hand it to me," she said. The box on the dresser. There was no way she could know about the box. I'd only seen it once, years ago, when I was 8, before she started keeping the door locked all the time. Small, wooden, carved with her initials. I whispered, "What's in the box?" Silence. Then, something I should have burned. The next morning, I found Nib dead outside the door. Her body was stiff, eyes open, like she'd been scared to death. There was a thin line of gray dust under her paws. I buried her in the yard and didn't tell anyone. I slept in my car that night. Even then, at 2:30 a.m., I thought I could hear faint knocking from the house. 2 days later, my aunt showed up unannounced. She looked older than I remembered, her hair gray, her hands trembling. She didn't even say hello. She just pointed at the door. She didn't destroy it, she said. "What are you talking about? She kept him in there." I felt my stomach twist. "Who?" My aunt looked at me for a long time, then whispered, "Your father." I laughed, but it came out wrong. "He left when I was a baby." Her eyes filled with tears. "That's what she told you?" I think I stopped breathing. "She couldn't let him go," she said, voice cracking. When he tried to leave, something hit the other side of the door. Hard. The sound made both of us jump. 3 knocks. Slow. Then a voice deeper. Rougher than my mom's. "Greater than you shouldn't have come back." We ran outside. She refused to come back in. I called the police that night. Told them someone might have broken into the locked room. They checked it. The officer said the door was still sealed tight. No one inside. No signs of forced entry. But when he leaned close, he frowned and said, "Do you smell that?" It smelled like earth, wet soil, rotting roots. He shrugged it off, said it was probably mold. But I saw him glance back at the door on his way out, like it made him uneasy. That was 3 nights ago. I'm writing this now because I think something's changing. The knocking isn't coming from the door anymore. It's coming from the walls, sometimes from the ceiling, sometimes from behind me. The smell of dirt follows me through the house. My clothes always feel damp. The lights flicker when I pass that hallway. Last night, I woke up with soil under my fingernails. I hadn't been outside, and the lock, the one on my mom's door, it's open now. I didn't touch it. I swear I didn't. I keep hearing movement in there. Slow footsteps. A soft scrape of wood on wood. I put a chair under my own bedroom door handle. Every hour or so, I hear a faint tap against it, almost gentle, like someone's testing how strong it is. I thought about moving out, but every time I start packing, the house shifts. The temperature drops. The walls creak like they're breathing, and the more I ignore it, the louder she or it gets. "Greater than you promised me, Jesse." That's the line she repeats now, over and over. "Greater than you promised me you wouldn't open it." I tried burning the door. I really did. I poured lighter fluid along the frame and struck a match, but the flame died before it touched the wood, like the air itself refused to let it burn. And when I looked closely at the surface, I realized something. It's not paint peeling. It's skin, dry and cracked. The texture of old fingertips pressed too long against it. That smell isn't mold. It's something buried. I haven't slept in 2 days. The knocking doesn't stop anymore. It just moves from the door to the wall, from the wall to the floor. I keep hearing whispers through the vents, like a conversation I can't quite catch. Sometimes I hear both voices now, my mother's and his. Last night, they said my name at the same time. I think they're waiting for me to open it. I'm so tired. I keep thinking maybe that's what she wanted, for me to finally see what's inside, to finish whatever she started. The lock clicked again an hour ago. I heard it turn fully this time. The smell is stronger now, like wet dirt and old perfume. I can hear breathing, deep, steady, right on the other side. I think it's closer to the door than ever. I'm holding the knob right now. It's warm, vibrating slightly, like something's moving underneath it. I just need to know if she really kept him there. If she really know. I heard her whisper just now. "Greater than you shouldn't have come back." It wasn't my mom's voice this time, it was mine. The smell of smoke woke me up before the alarm did. Not the sharp kind that sets off detectors, the soft, sweet kind, like burnt paper or hair. I sat up in bed, dizzy, my tongue dry. The house was quiet, except for the faint ticking of the kitchen clock down the hall. And then, I heard it again, that whispering sound, like someone turning pages in another room. I froze. My mom had been dead for 6 months, but the sound came from her bedroom. The same bedroom I hadn't entered since the day I found her. I thought about calling my sister, but it was 2:13 a.m., and I didn't want to sound crazy. So I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and stepped into the hallway. The air was thick, dusty. Her bedroom door was slightly open. It had been locked before. Mom always said doors stay shut for a reason. After she passed, I didn't question it. I cleaned the rest of the house, boxed up her clothes, even kept her old floral wallpaper because she'd chosen it herself. But that bedroom, her sacred space, I'd left untouched. Now the smell was coming from there, faint and warm, like candles and something else, like burning plastic. I pushed the door open. The light from my phone spilled across the carpet. Everything was exactly how she left it. The heavy dresser, the porcelain dolls on the shelf, the framed photo of me and my brother Mark from when we were kids. She used to keep that photo on her nightstand, but now it was turned face down. I bent to pick it up, and that's when I saw it. A small pile of ashes on the floor right next to the bed. Fresh, gray, and clumped, as if something had just been burned there, and on top of the ashes, a melted plastic soldier. Mark used to play with those when we were kids. I whispered his name before I even realized it. Mark. No answer. He'd died 2 years before Mom did a car accident out near the quarry. He was her favorite. Everyone knew it. She never hid it. When we were growing up, she'd praise his every breath. My perfect boy, my golden one. She'd say it even when he wasn't in the room. When I'd get sick, she'd sigh like I was inconveniencing her. But if Mark scraped his knee, she'd cry like the world was ending. I used to hate her for it. I still do. I stared at the melted toy on her carpet until my flashlight flickered. Then I heard something else, a faint click, like the sound of a lighter dot. It came from her vanity. Her mirror reflected the whole room, pale and warped in the dark. I moved closer. On the vanity's surface sat an old silver lighter. It was engraved with the initials, M.W. Mark's lighter. I hadn't seen it since his funeral. I remember slipping it into Mom's coffin before. The lid closed. She'd begged the mortician to put it in her hand so she could keep him close. Now, it was here. I felt the first chill run down my arms. My mouth was dry. I whispered again, half angry, half scared, "Who's in here?" The only sound was the faint crackle of the candle on her dresser, except there were no candles in that room. The flame was burning inside the photo frame. I stepped closer. My heart beat so loud it hurt my ears. The photo of me and Mark was burning slowly from the corner, the fire spreading inward like it was alive. I snatched it off the dresser and slapped it out with my hand. The smell of burnt paper filled the air. Half the image was gone. The part that was left showed only Mark's face. My half was blackened to ash dot. When I looked up at the mirror, I saw something behind me, a shape, someone sitting on the bed. I spun around, nothing. The sheets were smooth, untouched, but the smell of smoke was stronger now, and when I turned back, my reflection was wrong. The mirror showed 2 people. I stumbled back, almost tripping over the rug. There, in the glass, I could see myself shaking, terrified, and beside me, sitting calmly on the bed, was my brother. He looked just like he did before the accident. Clean shirt, relaxed shoulders. That stupid half smile he always had when Mom doted on him. He was looking right at me, and the worst part, he wasn't in the room, just the mirror. He raised his hand slowly and pointed toward the dresser. My flashlight beam followed. The top drawer was slightly open. Inside was a box, a small wooden one, with carvings along the edges. The same one I'd seen on Mom's nightstand when I was a kid. My hands were shaking as I lifted it. It was heavier than it looked. I opened it. Inside were 2 things, a lock of hair tied with a ribbon, and another photo. The photo was of me, alone. Someone had drawn a black X over my face in marker. Underneath the photo, written in Mom's perfect cursive, "For when she comes back." I dropped the box. My flashlight went out. The room went completely dark. For a second, all I could hear was my own breathing. Then that sound again. The soft turning of pages. I felt a faint gust of air on my neck, like someone exhaled. "You should have been nicer to her," a voice whispered. It was Mark's voice. I know it was. "She loved you in her own way." My throat tightened. I tried to move, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. "She told me everything," he said, "about what you said the night she died." I had said a lot of things that night. I'd told her I wished she'd never been my mother, that Mark's death didn't make her a saint, that I'd been happy he was gone, because at least she could finally look at me. I hadn't meant it. Not all of it. The whisper came again, closer now. "She heard you." I ran. I didn't think. I just bolted down the hallway, nearly tripping on the corner rug. My heart was hammering so hard it drowned out everything else. I slammed my bedroom door shut, locked it, and sat on the floor. The air smelled like smoke again. When I checked my hands, they were black with ash dot. I wiped them on my jeans, breathing hard, trying to convince myself this was a dream, a panic attack, something. But then I saw the glow under the door, a faint light, flickering orange, moving fire dot. I pressed my ear against the wood. It was warm. On the other side, a faint voice, my mom's humming that lullaby she used to sing to Mark when he couldn't sleep. I whispered, "Please stop." She didn't. The humming turned into words. "My favorite boy never left me. You're the one who did." The smell of smoke filled the room. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. The house was fine. No fire, no ashes. I told myself I must have fallen asleep on the floor, had a nightmare. The clock said 7:12 a.m. The sun was spilling through the blinds. Everything looked normal. Until I noticed the soot marks on the inside of my door. 5 long streaks, like someone had dragged their fingers down it. I didn't stay. I packed a bag, left the house, and drove to a motel. But that night, as I unpacked, I found something in my bag that I hadn't packed myself. The photo? The one with the X over my face. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't gone back. But I keep seeing things. Reflections that don't match. My phone camera flickers when I walk past mirrors. Sometimes, late at night, I smell that same burning sweetness, faint and warm, like she's nearby. I tried burning the photo, but it wouldn't catch. The lighter sparked, smoke rose, but the paper stayed cold. I threw it away. The next day, it was taped to my motel door. Now there's a message written under the X. She forgave him. She's coming for you next. I don't think it's her ghost. I think it's worse. Because last night, I heard someone knocking on my motel door. 3 slow knocks. Just like she used to do before checking on us as kids. I didn't open it, but this morning, when I finally worked up the courage to look, there was a small, melted plastic soldier sitting on the floor outside my door, still warm, and underneath it, a note, written in that same perfect CURSIVE. My favorite child still listens. The first time I heard the scratching under my bed, I thought it was the rats again. It wasn't. It was her voice, whispering my name. "Emily, did you write today?" The air was still, like the house was holding its breath. I hadn't touched that diary in months, the one my mom made me start when I was 10. She called it my truth book. I called it punishment. She used to make me sit at the kitchen table every night and write about everything I did wrong that day, every bad thought, every time I lied, every moment I disobeyed her. I thought that when she died, the book died with her, but something brought it back. I moved back into her house last winter after the hospital called about estate matters. I didn't want to, but no one else in the family would do it. The place hadn't been touched since she passed. Her smell, that old lavender and cigarette mix, was still thick in the air. The diary was the first thing I found. It was sitting neatly on my childhood desk, open to a blank page. My handwriting stared back at me from the last entry. I hate her. That was the night I ran away. I thought about burning it. I really did. But instead, I closed it and shoved it in the back of the closet. I didn't want to touch the past anymore. That was a week ago. Now, it won't stay put. Every morning, it's somewhere else. The first time, it was on my pillow, then the kitchen counter. Yesterday, it was on the passenger seat of my car. Open to a page I don't remember writing. The words were in my handwriting, but I never wrote them. She's proud of you now. I told myself it was a stress hallucination, that I was tired, that I needed to leave the house for good. But last night, when I tried, the front door wouldn't open. Not locked, just stuck. Like the wood itself refused to move. I ended up sleeping on the couch, too scared to go back to my room. Around 3 a.m., I heard the scratching again, faint at first, like nails on fabric, then louder, and that whisper, "You forgot your entry." The temperature dropped suddenly, the kind of cold that makes your teeth ache. I could see my breath in the dark, my skin prickled. I knew she was near. I forced myself to look under the couch, empty. But when I turned back, the diary was on the coffee table, open, pen sitting across the page. I swear, it wasn't there before. My phone started buzzing on the floor. No caller ID. I picked it up. Static. Then her voice again. Clear as day. The same tone she used when I was a kid. Patient but venomous. "If you don't write, Emily, you'll start to forget who you are." The call ended. I dropped the phone. The pen rolled off the diary and hit the carpet, slow and deliberate, like someone had pushed it. By morning, I decided to leave. I packed a small bag, grabbed my keys, and went to the car. But the car door was already open. Inside, on the passenger seat, sat the diary again. New words on the page in my handwriting. Neat, perfect cursive, just like she'd taught me. "You lied about leaving." My chest tightened so hard, I could barely breathe. I threw the book onto the driveway and drove off. 15 minutes down the road, I stopped at a gas station just to calm down. When I opened the glove compartment to grab my registration, it was there again. I didn't even open it this time. I threw it in the trash bin by the pump and drove until my hands stopped shaking. When I came home that evening, it was waiting on the kitchen table. The cover was wet, as if it had been pulled from the bottom of a pond. The entries started changing after that. Some of the old ones, the real ones, had new lines added to them. Tiny sentences in between my old words. Like this one. Original. Mom yelled at me for lying about cleaning my room. Now, Mom yelled at me for lying about cleaning my room. I deserved it. And another. Original. I told her I didn't eat the candy. She didn't believe me. Now I told her I didn't eat the candy. She didn't believe me because she was there. Every single page I read, there was something new, something twisted. The handwriting matched mine exactly. I even held it up to compare loops and spacing. It was perfect. Too perfect. That night, I dreamed of the kitchen table. I was sitting there again, 10 years old, pencil in hand. Mom sat across from me, smiling, but not the kind of smile that made you feel safe. Her lips barely moved. "Write what you did today," she said. I told her I didn't remember. Her voice turned sharp, angry. "Write what you thought today." When I looked down at the paper, it was already full. The words were moving, like worms crawling across the page. I woke up to the smell of smoke. The diary was on my chest. The pages were smoldering, faint embers glowing in the corners. But it wasn't burning. It was breathing. I ran to the sink and dumped water on it. The flames hissed out, but the paper didn't tear or warp. I stared at it, trembling. The wet ink on the latest page began to spread, forming new words in thick black lines. "Finish your entry, sweetheart." I screamed and threw it across the room. The next morning, every pen in the house was gone. I checked drawers, bags, even the junk cabinet. All gone, except one. The one that had been with the diary that first night. It sat in the middle of the floor, uncapped, waiting. I didn't touch it. I didn't even go near it. Instead, I drove to my sister's house across town. I hadn't talked to her since the funeral. She hated Mom more than I did. When I told her what was happening, she didn't laugh. She just looked tired. "You kept it, didn't you?" she said. I nodded. "You shouldn't have." She walked to her bedroom closet and came back holding a small wooden box. She opened it. Inside was her own diary. Same kind. Same handwriting. "I burned mine," she said quietly, "but she still writes in it sometimes." "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. She just pushed the box into my hands. "You have to finish the story. That's the only way she stops." That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the same one from our childhood home, and opened the diary again. The latest page was blank, waiting. The smell of lavender and cigarettes filled the air. I could hear the faint creak of the floorboards behind me, the same rhythm she had when she'd paced while I wrote. I picked up the pen. My hand moved on its own. Today, I tried to run again. Today she found me. Today, I understand why she made me write. I dropped the pen and pushed the book away. My breathing was ragged, the air heavy with something invisible. You always stop before the truth, her voice whispered. I didn't turn around. I couldn't tell them what you did, Emily. The air crackled, the lights flickered. I felt a hand cold paper thin on the back of my neck. Tell them why you really hated me. I don't know why I did it. Maybe to make it stop. Maybe because she was right. I picked up the pen again and wrote the truth. I'd never said out loud when I was 13. I left the window open. When the fire started, I didn't call for her. I watched the smoke fill her room. My chest felt tight. My vision blurred. I hadn't thought about that night in years. The fire that started from a candle. The smoke alarm that never went off. How I ran outside and watched her bedroom burn while she screamed my name. Now you remember, she whispered. The diary flipped its own pages, faster and faster, until it stopped at the very last one. A new sentence appeared at the bottom. I forgive you. And then the lights went out. I woke up this morning on the floor. The diary was gone. For the first time in weeks, the house was silent. No whispers. No scratches. The air felt light. I thought maybe it was over, until I went outside. In the frost on my car windshield, someone had written the words, "You forgot to sign it." I froze. When I came back inside, the diary was waiting on the table again, opened up a pen beside it, and the page said, "Finish the entry, sweetheart, or I'll start yours for you." It's midnight now. I can hear her walking upstairs. Slow, steady steps, the same ones from my childhood. She's humming again, the tune from that lullaby she used to make us sing before bed. The pen is moving on its own now. I don't want to look, but I can hear it scraping across the paper. When I finally gather the courage, I see what it's writing. Today, Emily learned to be a good girl again. My breath catches. I hear her whisper from the hallway, and tomorrow, she'll write mine. The smell of smoke was the first thing that woke me up. It wasn't thick, not the choking kind, but thin, oily, the smell of something just starting to burn. I thought it was a candle, maybe one of Mom's stupid lavender ones she always forgot to blow out. I stumbled out of bed, groggy, my feet sinking into the old carpet. But when I opened my bedroom door, the air hit me like a wave. It wasn't lavender. It was gasoline. I remember my heart pounding as I stepped into the hall. The lights were off, except for the orange flicker coming from the living room. The shadows swayed along the walls like slow-moving people, and then I heard her voice. "Greater than don't go in there yet," Mom said. Her tone was calm, almost gentle, the way she used to sound when I was little. Right before she did something that wasn't gentle at all, I turned the corner and froze. Mom was standing barefoot in the middle of the living room, still in her nightgown, her hair wild and half-burned from where she'd been too close to the fire. The carpet beneath her feet was soaked. The gas can lay on its side beside the couch, and in her hands, she held 2 keys. "Greater than you have to choose, sweetheart," she said softly, just like I did. Behind her, flames were crawling up the curtains. The whole room was breathing, moving alive with orange light. The shadows made her face look split, one side soft and maternal, the other twisted and hollow. Mom was always dramatic, but this was different. She wasn't angry. She looked determined. "Mom, what are you doing?" I said. My voice cracked halfway through. She smiled like I was being silly. "I'm giving you a chance. Something I never had." The fire popped. I stepped forward, but she held up the keys. One for my room, she said, shaking the silver one. One for yours. I stared. What? Only one door stays unlocked when the fire reaches the hallway. I thought she was bluffing. I thought she'd finally snapped. Grief, pills, the endless nights talking to the TV, as if Dad could still hear her. But the gas, the matches, the way her voice didn't shake, none of it felt like a bluff. I tried grabbing her, but she moved fast, faster than she'd moved in years. She shoved one of the keys into my hand, then stepped back toward the wall of heat. The air shimmered. The smell made me dizzy. It's not about which one of us lives, she said. It's about who deserves to. Mom, stop, please. Her eyes gleamed. Choose. The fire was spreading. The bookshelf was already catching. A photo frame burst behind her, glass popping like gunfire. I ran. I didn't know what else to do. My fingers were slick with sweat as I clutched the key. I sprinted toward my room, coughing, the walls groaning under the heat. The air was thick, almost syrupy. My throat burned. I could hear her laughing, not loud, not manic, but slow, breathy, like she was enjoying a joke I didn't get. When I reached my door, the key in my hand looked wrong, darkened, bent slightly, like it didn't fit. I jammed it into the lock anyway. It didn't turn. Mom, I screamed. It doesn't work. Her voice came from the flames. Greater than maybe, you were never supposed to be the one. I spun around, disoriented. The hallway was a tunnel of light now. I could barely see her through the heat, her face flickering like a reflection on water. Where's the other key? I coughed. Greater than still in my hand, she said. I took a step toward her, shielding my face. Give it to me. She tilted her head. No, you had your chance, but you can still change your mind. What the hell does that mean? You can come back, she said softly. Come home. I didn't understand until she stepped backward into her bedroom. The door clicked shut. The next few minutes were a blur of sound and heat. I remember throwing my shoulder against my bedroom door, splintering it open, diving inside as the hallway lit up like the sun. I remember the fire alarms screaming, the wallpaper peeling off in strips, the sound of something heavy falling behind the other door. I pressed myself against the floor, coughing, watching the smoke fill every inch of the house. The flames hissed as they found the gas trail. Then came the explosion. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. My throat was raw, my hair singed, my skin burned in places I couldn't even feel. The nurses told me I was lucky. The fire department said it was a miracle I'd made it out, but Mom didn't. They found her body behind the door to her room. The handle was locked from the inside. They said she must have been overcome by smoke. I didn't tell them about the keys, or the choice, or the fact that the fire didn't start in the living room. It started in the hallway. Between our rooms, that should have been the end, but something didn't stop with the fire. When I got out of the hospital, I moved into a small apartment across town. I told myself it was over, that whatever Mom had meant by choose died with her. But then the dreams started in them. I'm always standing in the hallway. The smoke is thick, but I can still see her shape through it, her hair glowing like copper, her hand holding out the key. Greater than wrong door, sweetheart. Every night, the dream ends the same way. She walks into her room and shuts the door. I wake up with the smell of gasoline in my nose. I started sleeping with the lights on. A few weeks later, the fire inspector called. He said they'd found something strange in the wreckage. A small metal key, melted almost completely, but still recognizable. It wasn't to any door in the house. He mailed it to me for closure. The day it arrived, I couldn't bring myself to touch it. I left it on the kitchen counter, inside the evidence bag. But that night, I heard the sound of metal scraping across the tile. The bag was empty. Since then, the key shows up in different places. Sometimes I find it in my jacket pocket, sometimes on my pillow. Once, it was inside my fridge. frosted over, but still warm to the touch. I tried throwing it away, but it always comes back. Last week, I woke up to find it hanging from my doorknob. My front door was unlocked. That was the first night I smelled smoke again. I know what you're thinking. Trauma, survivor's guilt, whatever. But listen, I've seen her. Not just in dreams. Not in reflections. In person. I woke up 2 nights ago to the sound of humming. The same lullaby she used to sing when I was a kid. The one she only sang for Mark, my little brother. The one she stopped singing after he died. I followed the sound into the living room. She was standing by the window. Her back was to me, her gown scorched, her hair matted with ash. She turned slowly, and her eyes weren't burned. They were bright. Too bright. Greater than you locked me in, she said. My throat closed. I couldn't speak. Greater than you were supposed to open the other door. I backed away. You told me to choose. She smiled, and her teeth were black. Greater than, and you chose wrong. I ran out of the apartment and didn't come back until sunrise. When I did, the air smelled like burnt plastic. My front door was wide open. The key was gone. I thought about leaving again, a new city, a new name, but something keeps pulling me back. Every night, I hear her humming. Every morning, there's ash on the floor. Last night, it got worse. I woke up choking on smoke. My fire alarm was screaming. I ran to the kitchen. No fire. But when I looked down, there was a single line of gasoline leading from my bedroom door to the stove. The key was sitting in the middle of the floor, and under it, burned into the tile, were the words, "Greater than your turn." I haven't slept since. I can feel her watching me from somewhere in the apartment. Sometimes I catch a reflection in the microwave, a flash of white gown, a hand holding something shiny. I can smell the gasoline again now, faint but constant, like it's coming from inside the walls. The key is back on my pillow as I write this. It's warm. It's humming. I think she wants me to use it, but I don't know what door it opens. This morning, I went down to the basement. The landlord said I could check the fuse box myself because the lights keep flickering. There are 2 locked doors down there, one labeled asterisk storage A, the other unmarked. When I held the key up to the second one, it clicked. The smell of gasoline hit me so hard, I almost threw up. I haven't opened it yet. Not because I'm scared of what's behind it, but because part of me knows she's waiting on the other side, smiling that half smile, holding another key. It's dark now. The power's out. There's smoke leaking from under the basement door. I can hear her singing through the vents. Greater than one for her room, one for mine. The key is in my hand again. My fingers smell like gasoline. She's giving me one last choice. Open the door, or burn with her again. I don't know what's worse, dying, or finally finding out which one of us she really wanted to save. The floorboards are warm under my feet. The air is getting thinner. She's whispering my name through the smoke. Greater than you were always my favorite, sweetheart. And this time, I believe her. The flash went off by itself. I wasn't even holding the camera. It came from the hallway, one bright, quick flicker that lit up the walls and vanished, followed by the faint electronic click of a shutter. The sound of the camera my mom used to use. I lay frozen on the couch, staring at the dark. The air in the house felt thick, stale, like it hadn't been breathed in for years. That camera hadn't worked since her funeral. I'd taken the batteries out myself. I told myself it was a hallucination, a dream, grief still playing tricks on me. But when I turned on the lamp, I saw the Polaroid dot. It was sitting face down on the coffee table. My hands were shaking as I flipped it over. It was a photo of me, asleep on the couch, taken from the hallway. The camera had been hers, an old Polaroid she used for family moments, as she called them. Birthdays, dinners, even random nights when she wanted proof we were happy, except they weren't real. She'd stage everything. make us sit closer, smile wider, even pretend to laugh. If someone blinked or looked sad, she'd tear the photo up right in front of us. "We don't keep bad pictures," she'd say. "We only keep perfect ones." After she died, I boxed all her photos and locked them in the attic. I couldn't stand to look at them anymore. That forced happiness, that fake warmth. But now one of those cameras was here again, taking new pictures. I searched the hallway. Nothing. Just silence and that smell. Old perfume mixed with dust. I checked the kitchen, the bedrooms, even the attic ladder. Everything was still. But when I came back, another Polaroid was on the table. Same spot. This one showed the back of my head. As I leaned over to look at the first photo, I couldn't even breathe. Someone was taking them while I moved. I grabbed my phone to call 9, but the screen froze mid. The lights flickered, and from the hallway, I heard her voice, soft, faint, but unmistakable. "Smile, sweetheart." I didn't move. I just stood there, shaking, staring down that dark hallway where the sound came from. The air was heavy, too quiet. Then, another flash. This one came from inside her old bedroom. I hadn't been in there since she died. The door was half open, the darkness thick and gray like fog. I could see the faint glow of something metallic on the dresser. The camera. I stepped inside. Every surface was covered in framed photos, hundreds of them. Some were cracked, others new. The same faces over and over. Me, Dad, and her. But in every photo, she looked different. In the newer ones, her smile was wider, her face stretched, her eyes sharper, darker, and in every single one, she was looking at me. The camera sat on the dresser, exactly where she'd always kept it. I picked it up slowly, half expecting it to burn my hand. It was warm. There was a Polaroid sticking out. I pulled it free. It was a photo of her standing behind me, hand on my shoulder. I dropped it. When I turned around, there was no one there, just that faint smell of her perfume again. I ran. I don't even remember crossing the hall, but when I looked down, the floor under my feet was lined with more photos. Hundreds of them. All the same. Me, standing in the house, looking terrified like stills from security footage. Some were from last night, some from this morning, and in each one, she was a little closer. I called my cousin that night. She was the only one who'd ever believed me when I said Mom wasn't normal. I didn't even try to explain everything, just said, "Something's happening in the house." She drove over within the hour. When she came in, she frowned. "You smell that?" Yeah, it was stronger now. That old perfume, the kind Mom used to drown herself in. The smell filled the house like smoke. My cousin stopped at the doorway to Mom's room. Her face went pale. "What the hell?" I looked. The walls were covered in new photos, all taken tonight, all showing us. She started grabbing them, ripping them down, yelling, "We're leaving now." But as soon as she touched them, the camera on the dresser clicked. Another photo slid out. We froze. It showed her, my cousin, with her mouth open mid-scream, standing right where she was. We both turned toward the dresser. The camera's lens was aimed directly at her. I lunged for it, but the lights cut out before I reached it. The darkness was absolute. Then came that voice again, louder this time, right beside my ear. "You're ruining our pictures." I ran for the door, dragging my cousin with me, but the knob wouldn't turn. The air felt thick, electric. I could hear the Polaroid worry, click, taking picture after picture in the dark. I finally managed to shove the door open, and we stumbled into the hallway. All the photos that had been on the floor were gone, but the walls were covered, thousands of them, each one showing us running, panicking, clawing for the door. Each one taken seconds before the next, like someone was recording our escape, one frame at a time. We didn't stop to look. We just ran. We made it outside, gasping in the cold air. I didn't even bother locking the door. My cousin wouldn't stop shaking. What the hell was that? I didn't have an answer. I told her I'd burn the house down in the morning, that I couldn't stay another night. She begged me not to go back inside, but I did. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in my car across the street, staring at the dark windows. The house looked normal, quiet, empty until around 3 a.m. That's when the flashes started again. One in the kitchen, one in the hallway, one in my old bedroom. They were faint at first, then faster, like someone was taking dozens of pictures, one after another. I wanted to run, to leave, but I couldn't move. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard they hurt, and then I saw her through the living room window. She was standing in the same spot she always took our family photos, holding the camera, and next to her, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A wall of framed pictures behind her, all knew all of me. I don't remember getting home that night. I just remember locking every door and throwing the blankets over my head like a child. I told myself I'd call someone in the morning, the cops, a priest, anyone. But when I woke up, the Polaroids were waiting on my kitchen table. Dozens of them. The top one showed me sleeping in bed. Underneath it, the next showed me turning away, eyes closed, mouth half open, and the last one, the one on the very bottom, showed me lying perfectly still, eyes wide open, staring directly at the camera. I burned them all, every single photo. I dumped the ashes in the sink and ran the water until it overflowed. For days, everything was quiet. I thought maybe I'd finally done it. Maybe destroying them broke whatever was happening. But last night, when I walked past the hallway mirror, I saw something taped to the glass. Another Polaroid. I peeled it off slowly. It was a photo of me standing exactly where I was, but I wasn't alone. Behind me, blurry and half-shadowed, was Mom smiling, that same frozen smile she always forced before every photo, and in her hand, she was holding the camera again. I don't use lights anymore. I don't trust what shows up when the flash goes off. But even in the dark, I can feel her here. Sometimes I wake up to the faint mechanical sound, that little work click. Sometimes I smell the perfume again, sweet and choking. And sometimes I wake up to find new photos beside my bed. Last night's was the worst one yet. It wasn't of me. It was of her, sitting in the living room. Calm, patient, smiling at something off camera. Someone sitting across from her. Someone holding the camera. When I looked closer, I saw the reflection in her eyes. It was me. The first time I heard the voice through the vent, I thought it was a dream. It was around 3 a.m. The house was dead quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the wind scraping against the siding. I'd been half asleep when a low murmur drifted up from the floorboards, faint, like a radio turned too low to make out words. At first I thought it was my imagination, or maybe the pipes. This house was old, but the voice kept going, steady, rhythmic, too deliberate to be random noise. Then I heard my name, Evan. Just once, soft, careful. I sat up, heart pounding, eyes locked on the vent near my bed. Cold air blew up from the duct, carrying that smell of rust and damp concrete that only came from the basement. That's where the voice was coming from. The basement had always creeped me out. It wasn't one of those finished ones, just raw concrete. A single bare bulb and an old recliner my dad used to sit in. When I was a kid, he'd spend hours down there, talking to himself or the walls. I never knew which. Mom used to call it his quiet time. After he died, I sealed the door shut with a heavy latch. I couldn't bring myself to go down there anymore until that night. The next morning, I checked the latch. Still locked. No sign anyone had been down there. I told myself it was just the house settling, that I was tired, that grief does weird things. But that night, the voice came back. Same time, same vent. Evan, come down. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even threatening. It sounded almost calm, like a parent coaxing a child out of hiding. The air coming through the vent was colder now, damp. I could smell mildew and something metallic, like old blood. I got up, crossed the room, and crouched by the vent. "Who's down there?" I whispered. Silence. Then, faintly, "You never listened to me." I didn't sleep after that. In the morning, I called my mom. She's been in a nursing home for a few months. I asked if Dad had ever kept something in the basement. There was a long pause on the phone. Then she said, "Don't go down there." Her voice cracked when she said it. I heard her breathing quicken, the sound of her hand trembling against the receiver. "Mom, what are you talking about?" She whispered something I couldn't make out. I asked her to repeat it, but she just said she was tired and hung up. That night, the voice came again, louder. This time it started with a slow hum, like someone tuning a radio. Then words formed through the static. "You always blamed her. She was trying to protect you, but you never listened." The floorboards creaked beneath me. I could feel the vibrations, faint footsteps directly under my bed. I grabbed a flashlight, heart hammering, and forced myself to open the basement door. The latch was still in place, but the wood around it looked splintered, like someone had tried to pry it open from the inside. When I leaned closer, a cold draft hit my face. The smell of damp concrete was stronger now, mixed with something sour. Rot. I undid the latch and pushed the door open. The hinges groaned, echoing down the stairs. The light switch at the top didn't work. The bulb must have burned out. The flashlight beam cut through the dark, catching the dust in the air. "Hello." My voice cracked. Something moved below, a slow shift, like someone dragging fabric across the floor. "You came." The words floated up from the dark, calm as before. "Who are you?" I said. No answer. Just a sound, a faint scrape, like fingernails brushing against concrete. I took one step down, then another. Each step creaked louder than the last. When I reached the bottom, the smell hit me full force. Mildew, dirt, and something rancid beneath it all. The flashlight beam landed on the recliner. Someone was sitting in it. I froze. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. The figure looked like my father, slouched in that same chair, head tilted forward, hands folded in his lap. The skin on his face looked gray, wrong, the way old photos fade with time. Dad. He didn't move. I stepped closer. The beam trembled in my hand. The closer I got, the less he looked like him. The skin seemed stretched too tight, the hands too long, and then he spoke. "You never let me explain." His voice came from somewhere behind me. I spun around. The recliner was empty. The air went still. The basement felt alive, like the walls were breathing, pulsing in and out. My flashlight flickered. "You thought she was innocent." The voice came from the vent system this time, echoing through the pipes. She said, "I hurt you, that I kept secrets." But it was her, Evan. She was the one. I pressed my hands to my ears. "Stop. Go look." The beam of the flashlight landed on the far wall. There was something there I hadn't noticed before, a section of concrete that looked newer, smoother than the rest, freshly sealed. I don't remember crossing the room. My body moved on its own. The wall was cold, damp to the touch. There was a faint outline, a small rectangular shape embedded in the concrete, a box. When I knocked on it, it sounded hollow. Behind me, the vent hissed. She hid the truth. She buried it here. I backed away, shaking my head. "You're not real." "Then open it." The air turned heavy. The flashlight flickered again, then died completely. The dark swallowed everything, and somewhere near the wall, I heard the slow crack of splitting concrete. When I came to, I was upstairs on the kitchen floor. I don't remember running up, but the basement door was wide open. Sunlight was coming through the blinds, dust dancing in the air. For a moment, I thought it had been a nightmare, until I saw the footprints. Wet, black marks across the floor, leading from the basement to the hallway. and back. I didn't go down again that day. I tried calling my mom, but the nursing home said she wasn't doing well. She'd started screaming in her sleep the night before, yelling my name over and over. That night, I boarded up the basement door. I poured bleach under the crack, anything to keep whatever was down there away. I told myself it was over, but the next morning, there was a photo sitting on my nightstand, a Polaroid. It showed the basement wall, the new section of concrete, and written on it, in marker, "I told you to look." I broke the wall open that night. I don't know why. I just couldn't stand the not knowing anymore. I pried at the edges with a crowbar until the concrete cracked and fell away. Dust filled the air. My hands bled. Inside was a wooden box. I dragged it out, coughing. It was small, maybe 2 feet long, sealed with a metal latch. When I opened it, I saw something wrapped in an old towel, a cassette tape, labeled in shaky handwriting, "Confessions." I didn't even own a cassette player, but I found one in a thrift store the next day. I don't know what I expected to hear. Maybe nothing. Maybe proof that my mind was gone. I pressed play. At first, there was static. Then the sound of my mother's voice. He thinks I don't know, but I do. I hear him whispering through the vents. Her voice was calm, deliberate. He says things to Evan at night. He tries to turn him against me, but I can't let him ruin our family. There was a pause, a long breath. Then the faint sound of digging. I'll keep him quiet. Just for a while. I stopped the tape. My hands were shaking too badly to press rewind. I sat there for hours, staring at the player. Then I heard it, that same voice again. You know now. It came from the vent above my head. The air that blew through smelled like earth, freshly disturbed soil. I looked toward the basement door, the one I'd boarded up. The wood was splintered. Something had pushed from the other side. I called the police. They found what was left of him, buried behind that wall. My father. They said the body had been there for years. They said my mother must have done it before she was moved to the nursing home. They said I was lucky to be alive, but they didn't smell it. They didn't hear it. When I came home that night, the vents were still humming, and through the walls, faint and wet, came her voice. You should have left him there, Evan. The air smelled of dirt again, and this time, under the floorboards. Another voice whispered back, now it's your turn to listen. The first night she stopped sleeping, I woke up to the sound of breathing that wasn't mine. It wasn't loud, just soft, steady, right beside my ear. I remember lying there in the dark, my eyes half open, trying to convince myself it was a dream. The air in the room felt heavy, like it had been sitting still for too long. And then I realized my wife, Claire, wasn't in bed. Her side of the mattress was cold. The blanket was gone. That's when I saw her standing in the doorway. She was facing the hallway, her back to me. The dim light from the kitchen outlined her in pale gray. Her shoulders were perfectly still, her hands hanging by her sides. Claire, I whispered. She didn't answer. We'd been married 7 years. She'd always been a light sleeper, but this was different. She wasn't tossing or turning. She wasn't moving at all. I got up, rubbing my eyes, and walked toward her. The floorboards creaked under my feet, and that sound, that tiny, human noise made the moment feel real, in a way that made my stomach turn. I reached out and touched her shoulder. She flinched hard like I'd burned her. Then she turned around slowly. Her eyes were open, wide, but glassy. She was awake, at least, I thought she was. Hey, I whispered. What are you doing? She stared at me for a long time. Her lips moved like she wanted to say something, but no sound came out. Then, finally, she smiled. I'm listening, she said softly. Listening to what? Her head tilted. You'll hear it too. I thought she was sleepwalking. It had been a stressful few weeks. Her mother passed. Work was a mess, and she hadn't been eating right. I guided her back to bed, but she didn't resist or speak again. She just stared ahead, breathing slow and shallow. When I woke up the next morning, she was sitting upright, still in bed, eyes open. "Claire." She blinked once. "You didn't hear it." I sat up. "Hear what?" She looked at me with that same faint smile. "You will, over the next few days." She barely slept, if at all. I'd wake up at random hours and find her sitting on the couch, staring at the wall. Sometimes she'd hum a low, tuneless sound under her breath. Sometimes she'd whisper to herself, too quiet for me to make out the words. I tried everything: warm tea, soft music, even sleeping pills. She'd take them, smile, say thank you, and still sit up all night. On the fourth night, I came into the living room and found her standing in front of the window. The curtains were drawn open. It was 2 in the morning. "Claire," I said softly, "you have to sleep." She didn't look at me. "Do you see them?" My chest tightened. "See who?" She pointed outside. "They watch while we sleep. That's why I stopped." The next day, I checked her into urgent care. The doctor said it was likely stress-related insomnia, maybe mild psychosis triggered by grief. They prescribed antipsychotics and referred us to a sleep specialist. That night, I set an alarm for 2 a.m. When it went off, she was gone again. The front door was unlocked. I found her outside, barefoot in the yard. She was standing on the lawn, arms at her sides, staring straight up at the sky. The streetlight buzzed overhead. The air smelled like wet grass. I called her name 3 times before she turned. Her eyes were bloodshot, her voice hoarse. "They're louder now." I took a step forward. "Who's louder?" She looked past me, toward the house. "They don't like you hearing them. Claire, come inside." She shook her head slowly. "You'll wake them up." That was the first time I noticed the noise. At first I thought it was the wind, a faint low hum, like a refrigerator running somewhere deep in the walls. But when I listened closely, it wasn't steady. It had rhythm, a rise and fall, a pulse, and beneath it, whispers. I thought I was losing it. I dragged Claire inside, locked every door, and told myself it was tinnitus, or the hum of the streetlight, or the boiler. But the sound followed me. I could hear it in the vents, the plumbing, even through the floorboards. That night, she didn't lie down. She just sat cross-legged on the bed, staring at the ceiling. When I asked her what she was doing, she said, "Waiting for you to stop pretending." By the 6th night, I hadn't slept either. The whispers had gotten louder. Sometimes they sounded like voices, other times like static. Whenever I turned off the lights, it felt like the air thickened, pressing against my ears. I started noticing things around the house that didn't make sense. Small, wrong details. The kitchen clock ticked backward once, before fixing itself. My phone alarm went off 2 minutes early, though it still read 2 a.m. when I looked. And Claire's reflection. God, I wish I hadn't looked. She was standing at the bathroom sink, washing her hands. Her movements were slow, mechanical. I walked behind her, but when I looked in the mirror, she wasn't moving at all. She was just staring into the glass, smiling. I grabbed her shoulders and turned her toward me. "You need to sleep," I shouted. She blinked slowly. "If I sleep, they'll come through." I swallowed hard. "Through what?" She looked down at the drain. I thought she was joking, or delusional. But when I leaned closer, I swear to God, I heard it too. A faint scraping, like metal against metal. Then a breath, wet, heavy, like something pulling air through water. I sealed the drain that night. Every one of them sinks, bathtub, shower. I stuffed them with towels, duct taped over the grates. I thought it would calm her down. It didn't. She just stopped talking entirely. She'd sit in silence for hours, eyes half closed, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. When I tried to talk to her, she'd just smile, that slow, patient smile. "You'll see," she whispered once, "when they pick you." I didn't sleep at all after that. On the 8th night, the power went out. I woke to total darkness, not even the faint glow from the clock. The house was silent. For a second, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe we'd both finally lost it. Then I heard movement downstairs, footsteps, soft, deliberate. I called her name, but she didn't answer. I grabbed a flashlight and went down, the beam cutting through the dark. The front door was wide open. The night outside was so still it hurt, and there she was, standing in the doorway again, staring out. The wind moved through her hair, but she didn't react. She looked empty. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat, detached. They said you can't hear them anymore. What are you talking about? I whispered. She turned her head toward me. They've decided. It's my turn. And then she stepped outside. I chased her, barefoot, half asleep, stumbling through the yard. She walked straight into the woods behind the house, the ones we never went near at night. Claire, stop. She didn't turn around. The flashlight caught her figure moving between the trees, that white nightgown glowing faintly. When I reached her, she was standing in a small clearing. The air was cold, but I was sweating. The hum, that low vibration I'd been hearing in the house, was louder out there. Deep, rolling, coming from the ground itself. Do you hear it now? She asked. Her eyes were black in the dim light. I opened my mouth to answer, but something else answered for me. It came from beneath us, a wet, gurgling sigh. The soil shifted under my feet. Claire smiled. You shouldn't have made me sleep. I grabbed her arm and tried to pull her back toward the house, but she screamed, a raw animal sound that made my ears ring. The ground trembled. I swear, it moved, like something under it was trying to push through. I dragged her, stumbling, falling into the mud. She kicked and clawed at me, shouting words that didn't sound like words. By the time I got her inside, the power was still out. She collapsed on the living room floor, trembling, eyes wide open. I called 911, but my phone just buzzed with static, and then, from the vent near the ceiling, a voice whispered, "She's awake now." They took her away that morning. The hospital said she was in a catatonic state. No reaction, no movement, just her eyes open, always staring at the ceiling. The doctors said her brain was active, constantly firing like she was in REM sleep. Her body won't shut down, one of them told me. It's like she's dreaming while she's awake. I asked if she could hear us. He hesitated. Maybe. It's been 3 months. She's still in that bed, breathing slow, eyes open. They feed her through a tube now. I visit every night. But lately, the doctors have started complaining about the noise, the humming. They say it only happens when I'm there. I tried moving out of the house, but I couldn't. The new place feels wrong, empty. Every night, around 3 a.m., I wake up and hear her voice through the vent again. I'm not tired anymore. Sometimes, when the house goes quiet, I hear something else too, a faint scrape beneath the floorboards, like something shifting in the soil. Last night, I dreamed she came back home. She stood by the bed, smiling that same still smile. When I woke up, there was mud on the sheets. I went to see her this morning. The nurse said she hadn't moved all night, but when I walked into her room, she was sitting upright, eyes wide, staring right at the vent above her bed. The air was cold, damp. The hum was back. Do you hear it now? She whispered. Her mouth moved too slow for the words. You kept me asleep too long. The lights flickered. The machines beeped, and then her breathing stopped. For just a second. Then I heard it again, not from her, but from everywhere. A low, steady sound, crawling through the walls, through the floor, through me. It's louder now, and I think I finally understand what she meant. They weren't trying to wake her. They were waiting for me to stop sleeping. The first night I heard the knocking, I thought it was the pipes again. It was soft at first, 3 slow taps, then silence. I sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling above me, waiting for it to come again, and it did. 3 taps. A pause. Then two, like someone answering me. The attic sat right above my bedroom. I'd been in there maybe twice since moving back into my mother's house, once to grab Christmas decorations, once to fix a leak. I always hated how it smelled. Dry wood, dust, and something faintly sweet, like old flowers left too long in a vase. Mom had passed away 3 months before, and I'd been cleaning her house in pieces, room by room. I wasn't planning on staying long, just until I sold the place. But that night, lying awake at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling while something knocked from inside the attic, I remember thinking, maybe this house didn't want to be emptied. The noise stopped when I stood up. I listened for a long time, but there was nothing. No wind, no creaking floorboards, not even the hum of the refrigerator. Just silence. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Until I saw the attic light flicker on, I froze in the hallway, looking up at that thin strip of yellow bleeding through the crack in the ceiling door. It stayed on for maybe 5 seconds. Then it went dark again. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next morning, I pulled down the attic ladder. The air that came down was stale, almost wet. Dust drifted through the beam of my flashlight like falling snow. "Hello," I said, instantly feeling stupid. Nothing. I climbed halfway up, the wood groaning under my feet. The bulb overhead was still warm. When I reached the top, I saw the boxers, all the ones I remembered from years ago. My mom kept everything. Cardboard stacked to the ceiling, each labeled in her tight, looping handwriting. Photos, 1998 to 2002. Receipts, clothes, and one box I didn't recognize. It wasn't labeled. It was newer, clean, no dust on it at all, sitting by itself in the far corner. I crawled over and opened it. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them. Every single one was of me. They weren't normal pictures. Most were taken through doorways or from behind curtains, blurry, tilted, like someone had been hiding. Some I remembered birthdays, school concerts, graduations, but others were recent. There was one of me sleeping in the guest room last week, another of me washing dishes, one of me standing at Mom's grave, and on the back of each photo, in that same familiar handwriting, "He looks just like him." I dropped the box and nearly fell down the ladder. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely close it. I told myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe my mother had dementia before she passed. Maybe she'd been collecting them out of habit. Maybe someone else had been sneaking in, a neighbor, a squatter, someone using the attic as a hideout. But the locks were fine, the windows sealed. That night, I slept with the lights on, around 3 a.m. I woke up to the sound of humming, a woman's voice, soft and low, drifting through the vent. It took me a few seconds to recognize the tune, "You Are My Sunshine." My mother used to sing it when I was little. The sound was coming from above, from the attic. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I just stared up at the ceiling, listening to that gentle voice, humming the same line over and over until it stopped. Then the tapping began again. I called my sister, Abby, the next morning. She was 2 states away, but still sounded annoyed when she picked up. "I'm serious," I said. "Someone's been in the attic." "Jason," she sighed, "Mom's house is ancient. It's probably raccoons. Raccoons don't take pictures of me in my sleep." There was silence on the line. "What are you talking about?" I told her about the box, the photos, the writing. When I finished, she laughed, not a full laugh, just a sharp exhale through her nose. "You sure they weren't old pictures? You know how Mom was. She never threw anything away." "These weren't old," I said. "They were from last week." She didn't answer. Finally, she said, "Jason, maybe you should get some rest. You've been in that house too long." Then she hung up. That night, the knocking started again. This time it was faster, uneven. I tried to drown it out with the TV, but the volume barely helped. I could feel it in the walls, like the sound was crawling down toward me, and then something hit the floor above, heavy, like a body dropping. I jumped up and grabbed a flashlight. My heart was hammering. The attic light was already on when I pulled down the ladder. The air that rushed out was freezing. "Who's up there?" I shouted. No answer. I climbed anyway, flashlight trembling in my hand. Halfway up, I stopped. There was a shadow, long and thin, standing between the boxes. It didn't move. "Mom," I whispered before I could stop myself. The shadow turned its head. I stumbled back, the ladder shaking under my feet. I dropped the flashlight and scrambled into the hallway. By the time I looked up again, the light in the attic had gone out. The next morning, I called the police. They searched the house top to bottom. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing missing. The officer told me I was probably imagining things, but when they left, I noticed something new. A thin rope tied around the attic door handle. I didn't put it there. I tugged it gently. It didn't budge. Someone had tied it from the inside. That afternoon, I found the key to Mom's old filing cabinet in her bedroom. I hadn't gone through it before. Most of it was just paperwork, bank statements, letters. But one folder caught my eye. It was labeled Eleanor Project. Inside were dozens of printed photographs, not of me this time, but of an old woman. I recognized her from the nursing home Mom volunteered at before she got sick. Each picture had writing on the back. Test 1. Subject responded to voice. Test 3. Subject recalled memory of deceased son. Test 5. Subject retained voice imprint after 2 hours. There were audio tapes too, labeled with dates. The most recent one was from just a month before Mom died. When I played it, I nearly dropped the recorder. Her voice came through, calm, clinical. Test 12. Attempting cross-channel activation through auditory imprint. Jason's voice sample attached. Subject appears reactive. Then, another voice. Faint, week-old. Jason. My heart stopped. It sounded like my voice. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The idea that Mom had been experimenting on people trying to bring back memories through sound was bad enough. But what did that have to do with me? Around 2 a.m., the humming started again, louder this time. I turned off the lights and listened. It wasn't coming from the vent anymore. It was coming from the attic door itself. A woman's voice, clear now, whispering through the wood. "Jason, help me." I held my breath. "Please." She won't let me leave. My throat was dry. "Who? Your mother?" Something shifted above me, a soft thump, then scraping. "She keeps me here." I backed away slowly. The air felt wrong, thick, like I was breathing through dust. Then I saw it, a line of ash falling from the edge of the attic door, like someone was drawing it from above. The rope untied itself and dropped to the floor. I ran outside, slept in my car until sunrise. When I went back in, everything was quiet. No humming, no tapping, no ash dot, but there was a new box sitting on the kitchen table. I knew before I opened it what I'd find. More photographs, all of me sitting on the attic ladder, flashlight in hand, mouth half open, taken from directly above, and on the back of the top one, written in pen. "He's ready." I packed my things that night. Every box, every bag. I was done. But before I left, I went up there one last time. The air was colder than ever. The light bulb flickered weakly overhead. The attic looked smaller somehow, tighter. The shadows didn't fall right. And then I saw it. Something I'd missed before. A door, hidden behind a stack of boxes, built right into the far wall, barely big enough to crawl through. I don't know why I opened it. Curiosity, maybe, or fear. But the second I did, the smell hit me. Rotting flowers, damp fabric, dust thick enough to choke on. Inside was a tiny room, a rocking chair, a single lamp, and on the chair, a woman. Her face was turned away, her hair white and tangled. "Hello?" I whispered. The woman didn't move. Then the lamp flickered, and I saw the photograph on her lap, a picture of me and my mom, taken when I was maybe 10. The woman's hand twitched. "Jason." Her voice was cracked, soft, almost childlike. "Who are you?" I asked. She turned her head slowly, and I felt my stomach drop. It was my mother, or something that looked like her, pale, hollow. Her eyes clouded over, but still alive. "You came back," she said. I stumbled backward, hitting the boxers. "You're dead." She smiled faintly. "Not all of me." I ran. But before I could reach the ladder, her voice changed. It was my voice now. "Don't leave me up here again." I froze. The attic door slammed shut on its own. The bulb burst, showering glass. The dark filled with whispers, dozens of them, overlapping, echoing, all in my mother's voice. "He looks just like him. He looks just like him. He looks just like him." I clawed at the door until I felt wood splintering under my nails. When I finally got it open, I fell down the ladder, hit the floor hard enough to knock the air out of me, and didn't stop running until I was in the car. That was 2 weeks ago. The police said the attic was empty when they searched it. No hidden room, no rocking chair, no photographs. But last night, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name, written in that same looping handwriting. Inside was a single photograph. Me, sitting in my car, taken from above. On the back, it said, "We finished it. She's in you now." I can't sleep anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I see that attic door, feel the weight of the ceiling above me. Sometimes, when the house gets quiet, I swear I hear humming in the vents, and when I look in the mirror, my reflection doesn't always move the same way I do. Last night, I caught it smiling before I did. It whispered something I almost didn't hear. "You look just like him." The first night I heard the knocking, I thought it was the pipes again. It was soft at first, 3 slow taps, then silence. I sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling above me, waiting for it to come again, and it did. 3 taps. A pause, then 2, like someone answering me. The attic sat right above my bedroom. I'd been in there maybe twice since moving back into my mother's house. Once to grab Christmas decorations, once to fix a leak. I always hated how it smelled. Dry wood, dust, and something faintly sweet, like old flowers left too long in a vase. Mom had passed away 3 months before, and I'd been cleaning her house in pieces, room by room. I wasn't planning on staying long, just until I sold the place. But that night, lying awake at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling while something knocked from inside the attic, I remember thinking, maybe this house didn't want to be emptied. The noise stopped when I stood up. I listened for a long time, but there was nothing. No wind, no creaking floorboards, not even the hum of the refrigerator. Just silence. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it, until I saw the attic light flicker on. I froze in the hallway, looking up at that thin strip of yellow bleeding through the crack in the ceiling door. It stayed on for maybe 5 seconds. Then it went dark again. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next morning, I pulled down the attic ladder. The air that came down was stale, almost wet. Dust drifted through the beam of my flashlight like falling snow. "Hello?" I said, instantly feeling stupid. Nothing. I climbed halfway up, the wood groaning under my feet. The bulb overhead was still warm. When I reached the top, I saw the boxers, all the ones I remembered from years ago. My mom kept everything. Cardboard stacked to the ceiling, each labeled in her tight, looping handwriting. Photos 1998 to 2002. Receipts, clothes, and one box I didn't recognize. It wasn't labeled. It was newer, clean, no dust on it at all. Sitting by itself in the far corner, I crawled over and opened it. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them. Every single one was of me. They weren't normal pictures. Most were taken through doorways or from behind curtains, blurry, tilted, like someone had been hiding. Some I remembered, birthdays, school concerts, graduations, but others were recent. There was one of me sleeping in the guest room last week, another of me washing dishes, one of me standing at Mom's grave, and on the back of each photo, in that same familiar handwriting, he looks just like him. I dropped the box and nearly fell down the ladder. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely close it. I told myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe my mother had dementia before she passed. Maybe she'd been collecting them out of habit. Maybe someone else had been sneaking in, a neighbor, a squatter, someone using the attic as a hideout. But the locks were fine, the windows sealed. That night, I slept with the lights on. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of humming, a woman's voice, soft and low, drifting through the vent. It took me a few seconds to recognize the tune, "You Are My Sunshine." My mother used to sing it when I was little. The sound was coming from above, from the attic. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I just stared up at the ceiling, listening to that gentle voice humming the same line over and over until it stopped. Then the tapping began again. I called my sister, Abby, the next morning. She was 2 states away, but still sounded annoyed when she picked up. "I'm serious," I said. "Someone's been in the attic." "Jason," she sighed, "Mom's house is ancient. It's probably raccoons. Raccoons don't take pictures of me in my sleep." There was silence on the line. "What are you talking about?" I told her about the box, the photos, the writing. When I finished, she laughed. Not a full laugh, just a sharp exhale through her nose. "You sure they weren't old pictures? You know how Mom was. She never threw anything away." "These weren't old," I said. "They were from last week." She didn't answer. Finally, she said, "Jason, maybe you should get some rest. You've been in that house too long." Then she hung up. That night, the knocking started again. This time it was faster, uneven. I tried to drown it out with the TV, but the volume barely helped. I could feel it in the walls, like the sound was crawling down toward me, and then something hit the floor above, heavy, like a body dropping. I jumped up and grabbed a flashlight. My heart was hammering. The attic light was already on when I pulled down the ladder. The air that rushed out was freezing. "Who's up there?" I shouted. No answer. I climbed anyway, flashlight trembling in my hand. Halfway up, I stopped. There was a shadow, long and thin, standing between the boxes. It didn't move. "Mom," I whispered before I could stop myself. The shadow turned its head. I stumbled back, the ladder shaking under my feet. I dropped the flashlight and scrambled into the hallway by the time I looked up again. The light in the attic had gone out. The next morning, I called the police. They searched the house top to bottom. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing missing. The officer told me I was probably imagining things, but when they left, I noticed something new. A thin rope tied around the attic door handle. I didn't put it there. I tugged it gently. It didn't budge. Someone had tied it from the inside. That afternoon, I found the key to Mom's old filing cabinet in her bedroom. I hadn't gone through it before. Most of it was just paperwork, bank statements, letters. But one folder caught my eye. It was labeled Eleanor Project. Inside were dozens of printed photographs. Not of me this time, but of an old woman. I recognized her from the nursing home Mom volunteered at before she got sick. Each picture had writing on the back. Test 1. Subject responded to voice. Test 3. Subject recalled memory of deceased son. Test 5. Subject retained voice imprint after 2 hours. There were audio tapes too, labeled with dates. The most recent one was from just a month before Mom died. When I played it, I nearly dropped the recorder. Her voice came through calm, clinical. Test 12. Attempting cross-channel activation through auditory imprint. Jason's voice, sample attached. Subject appears reactive. Then another voice. Faint, weak, old. Jason. My heart stopped. It sounded like my voice. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The idea that Mom had been experimenting on people, trying to bring back memories through sound, was bad enough. But what did that have to do with me? Around 2 a.m., the humming started again. Louder this time. I turned off the lights and listened. It wasn't coming from the vent anymore. It was coming from the attic door itself. A woman's voice, clear now, whispering through the wood. Jason, help me. I held my breath. Please. She won't let me leave. My throat was dry. Who? Your mother? Something shifted above me, a soft thump, then scraping. She keeps me here. I backed away slowly. The air felt wrong, thick, like I was breathing through dust. Then I saw it, a line of ash falling from the edge of the attic door, like someone was drawing it from above. The rope untied itself and dropped to the floor. I ran outside, slept in my car until sunrise. When I went back in, everything was quiet. No humming, no tapping, no ash dot, but there was a new box sitting on the kitchen table. I knew before I opened it what I'd find. More photographs, all of me sitting on the attic ladder, flashlight in hand, mouth half open, taken from directly above, and on the back of the top one, written in pen, "He's ready." I packed my things that night. Every box, every bag. I was done. But before I left, I went up there one last time. The air was colder than ever. The light bulb flickered weakly overhead. The attic looked smaller, somehow, tighter. The shadows didn't fall right, and then I saw it, something I'd missed before. A door, hidden behind a stack of boxes, built right into the far wall, barely big enough to crawl through. I don't know why I opened it. Curiosity, maybe, or fear. But the second I did, the smell hit me. Rotting flowers, damp fabric, dust thick enough to choke on. Inside was a tiny room, a rocking chair, a single lamp, and on the chair, a woman. Her face was turned away, her hair white and tangled. "Hello," I whispered. The woman didn't move. Then the lamp flickered, and I saw the photograph on her lap, a picture of me and my mom, taken when I was maybe 10. The woman's hand twitched. "Jason." Her voice was cracked, soft, almost childlike. "Who are you?" I asked. She turned her head slowly, and I felt my stomach drop. It was my mother, or something that looked like her, pale, hollow, her eyes clouded over, but still alive. "You came back," she said. I stumbled backward, hitting the boxers. "You're dead." She smiled faintly. "Not all of me." I ran. But before I could reach the ladder, her voice changed. It was my voice now. "Don't leave me up here again." I froze. The attic door slammed shut on its own. The bulb burst, showering glass. The dark filled with whispers, dozens of them, overlapping, echoing, all in my mother's voice. "He looks just like him. He looks just like him. He looks just like him." I clawed at the door until I felt wood splintering under my nails. When I finally got it open, I fell down the ladder, hit the floor hard enough to knock the air out of me, and didn't stop running until I was in the car. That was 2 weeks ago. The police said the attic was empty when they searched it. No hidden room, no rocking chair, no photographs. But last night, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name, written in that same looping handwriting. Inside was a single photograph. Me, sitting in my car, taken from above. On the back, it said, "We finished it. She's in you now." I can't sleep anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I see that attic door, feel the weight of the ceiling above me. Sometimes, when the house gets quiet, I swear I hear humming in the vents, and when I look in the mirror, my reflection doesn't always move the same way I do. Last night, I caught it smiling before I did. It whispered something I almost didn't hear. "You look just like him."